What's raging, gamers? Welcome to Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show. How you doing, HenricK the Wreck?
You know me, Chris. As always, it's Wednesday night, and I'm doing amazing.
Hey, that's right, because I know a lot of people, they kind of dwell it's the middle of the week, but for us to be invited with you gamers joining us along for the ride for this amazing show we got, Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show, I'm ecstatic, and we got so much to unpack during this show, but I just got to give a quick shout out. Over the weekend, we watched an amazing fight with, Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, and then to find out, as they're doing their undisputed fight, a boxing game is finally coming after all these years. I don't know about you, HenricK. Forget EA College Football. It's all about undisputed.
Hey, it's been a while, so I definitely see the hype. I was not a huge fan of the previous titles, but hey, maybe it's a chance for me to get into it.
Oh, I am so ready to squabble it out in the square ring. Forget the octagon. We're over it. We need our boxing game. But hey, we always like to start off the show with the bang. And, usually we like to show videos to start it off, but, popular rapper, singer, and songwriter Doja Cat is not vibing with Fortnite's latest season, which is about to wrap up this week. And she is so ready for a remix. If you couldn't figure that out just by looking at this tweet that we're about to show you guys here on air, Fortnite wouldn't be so effing embarrassing if they made lobbies where people with actual aim skills and FPS experience didn't deal with the losers using effing water bending and chains of Hades. I'm probably not reading it the way that she wanted me to, but it didn't stop with this tweet. The next one read, water bending is an effing crutch. You are not good at the game because of water bending. I would become severely depressed if I had to rely on any of these stupid non-effing weapons. Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
I haven't brought it out in a while, but I think it's time for me to bring it out.
Yeah.
It's just a skill issue.
It's just a skill issue. I mean, why? I mean, some people have been vibing with this. Some people have not. I know this one gentleman said online, hey, Doja, if you need a carry, let me know. You don't need to worry about water bending. I'll build for you. I'll shoot for you. I'll heal for you. I'll protect you. I mean, Doja, you're a beautiful woman. I get it. I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys, a lot of dogs out there that want to get a part of the Doja Cat. Exactly. Have you tried never backing down and never giving up? I've tried, Nick. You're the only god I know on Fortnite. That's why I have to stick to the no build. I'm just a novice, okay? And this sounds like a Coke rant. So, yeah,
hey,
like,
it could be.
Who really is typing in all text like that nowadays? I mean, does that get the point across?
Not any more than, typing coherently, maybe.
I don't know. I like to text in all caps. So, I'm going to have to vibe with Doja Cat on that one. I felt the energy. Yeah, in a sense, I'm ready for something new. I know the map's not going to change that much, but, Chains of Hades, it does kind of seem like, what are we doing here? This doesn't feel like Fortnite after all. But, hey, VR seems like having an amazing year in 2024, and this streamer's Population 1 VR setup is blowing up online. Turns out gliding into virtual warfare is the new extreme sport we never knew we needed.
Taking immersion to the next level.
Yes, indeed. And, the comments are always electrifying around these kind of things. First one said, I deadass thought that guy was a glider in-game.
Yeah, it kind of does look like it. He blends in perfectly.
Yeah. When I was first watching, I literally thought that was a graphic of the video game. But you know what? Maybe, that's the beauty of it. Second comment we got here is unnecessary equipment when you only have to put your arms out to the side to fly. Why, man? This is called an immersive experience after all. What if you're going to be gliding in? Why would
people don't want to do that, all right? I mean, you can appreciate the creativity, and I appreciate it.
Is this what we look like?
You don't want to do all that.
That's true. Is this what we looked like when we were in those like baby cradles? Being strapped hopelessly, like trying to MacGyver our way out. I'm starting to think that's what we were looking like. And drive by, nah. Walk down, nah. Fly down, success. Gotta love it. But it's always kind of crazy about a lot of viral content that goes viral is that no matter the season, gamers are always up for a spine-chilling round of Dead by Daylight, because even in the middle of spring, gamers will chase survivors like they just spotted a limited edition Funko Pop, or maybe they think it's October and they're racing to Starbucks to go get their pumpkin spice latte. It doesn't stop horror enthusiasts, man. They will always continue to play this game, but is this the next great move? Let us know what's good.
Whether or not that's an actual good strategy or not, and I've heard this game is terribly balanced at times. That's just fun trolling with one of your buds, like, hey, man, come over. We're going to mess with the slasher.
Well, especially when you jump into these online matchmaking and, a lot of the times I'm always stuck being a survivor. And then when you get the one opportunity to be the killer and then you start getting trolled like this, I would instantly close out of the game. I'd force everybody to get out of the map. They'd be like, what happened? It'd be like, the killer just left. Yep. He's on to NHL 24. He's not playing this. He rage quit. But the first comment that we got here is, who the F plays this shit? It's crazy they get so many signings with popular horror movies for such a shit repetitive game. Hey, they've been saying the same thing about Fortnite, but you still play, right?
True, yeah. Fortnite is like collaborated with everyone, it feels like, at this time.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you want to be tied to a horror game after all? I mean, especially with the longevity of this game. Yeah, I'm quite surprised too. Been around since the PS3, right? I mean, wow. I mean, gotta love it. Gotta love the success. He's not smart at all. He's just wasting his flashlight. The killer could just keep going until he runs out of juice. Then bro cooked. So, yeah, I mean, someone's clearly an average gamer or an expert in Dead by Daylight. And the last comment we got here is, let's be real, Friday the 13th was the better version of this game. I don't know. What do you vibe with that? I come with that, dude. I like Friday the 13th. All right.
I am a horror fan, and I'm sure you've known this from prior conversations we've had, but at the same time, I've always felt like these horror games are a little cheesy. And not in the like, oh, I'm going to go watch a cheesy horror flick and have fun kind of cheesy. More of like, I don't know if I really want to play this.
Yeah, that's true. There's no real like suspense or kind of thrill to it. It's more of just like you feel drugged and you're in a trance and you're like, what are we playing again? Are we really playing a horror game? I have no idea. But, a lot of people tend to be really jazzed about this. I know you were one of the lucky souls that was able to get your hands on the closed alpha test for Marvel Rivals. And one streamer took trolling to another dimension by playing as Doctor Strange. Seems like this guy is the ultimate troller. And let's just say his teammates were more confused than a cat at a dog show. And you're going to understand why, because Loki might have a run for his money, because seems like someone wants to be the mystic mischief after all.
The battle starts in 5.
Everyone take TP.
2, 1.
Brother, his TP is so sick.
Securing the mission area is your top priority.
That guy is a bad guy. No real difference.
Wait, how does this even work? You just choose anywhere?
Yeah.
Oh man, classic internet trolling in games as well. Considering any team game, you're gonna see people like this. You decide, oh, what if I did that?
Well, everybody's so gullible, especially when you're playing an alpha test, right? And you're just like, hey, man, if I could jump in, I could use the mechanics, might as well. Just don't patch fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep that in the game. That is an amazing feature. But not gonna lie, if that happened to me, I'd let out a little giggle. So yeah, people are agreeing. NetEase, don't do it. Don't fix it. It's hilarious. And don't ban them or suspend them for a week. Don't do none of that kind of stuff just because somebody wants to create a very funny viral clip being Doctor Strange. Next clip is, it's like a combination of Smite and Overwatch, but with Marvel characters. That's tight. I haven't heard Smite come into fruition when you're talking about Marvel Rivals. Is that a fair assessment?
It's a little bit like that, but I'd say Smite is more of the MOBA aspect where, it's lane fighting and you're fighting kind of like you are fighting in League of Legends, whereas this is really more closer to Overwatch.
Gotcha. Okay. See, but diabolical is the next word to use for that. But hey, sometimes we do need toxic gamers after all. It lightens up the mood, and you find out some new funny widgets sometimes after all this magical landscape, the realm of the pixelated paradise that we call video games. But man, we got an amazing show for everybody that's tuning in live for Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show, and this is where I throw it to HenricK the Wreck. Are you ready to rock and roll, my man?
Oh yeah, it's time to talk about a game.
Come on, baby. Let's get it. Woo!
Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Animal Well. Animal Well is the first indie game published by Big Mode, the studio that Video Game Donkey has put together. Given his reputation as a video game reviewer, he needs the first game that they publish to be remarkable. So with that in mind, let's dive into the details about Animal Well, starting with the gameplay. The gameplay of Animal Well falls into the genre of Metroidvania. This is a genre that sets the player on a non-linear journey throughout a map with lots of backtracking and exploration. It is inspired by the formula that classic Metroid and Castlevania games have created, given the namesake. So how does it hold up as a Metroidvania? Animal Well hits all the beats of the genre, not holding the hand of the player at all, and instead having them piece together things themselves. You'll get lost, then eventually find your way to move forward, then get lost again. There are plenty of puzzles to solve, and the game really focuses on them alongside the exploration more than anything else. This is because there is no traditional combat like you would expect from a Metroidvania. The items you get throughout your journey are not used as weapons, and simply are tools to open up pathways and solve more puzzles. Even the quote boss fights are not even combat fights in the same sense, and all revolve around a puzzle. However, the game doesn't tell you about interactions with the environment and enemies, so you'll find out mechanics about the game via trial and error. That being said, this does lead to a very satisfying experience where you'll find a solution or figure out a mechanic with one of the items and feel accomplished in doing so. Now, is there any story at all? There is no story really at all in this game, but that isn't necessarily a downside. The game leans heavily into the gameplay instead, and while there is an ending, it's all about the journey. All you have to know is that your main objective is to reach the fires placed throughout the map, but now the question still stands. Pause or repeat?
Alright, I got 3 words to describe this game. Captivating, eerie, and mysterious. Do you have any words for yourself?
I got a lot more words than that. Man, this game is a whole lot to unpack because it is challenging. It tests your patience. It's frustrating. And it's addicting for a 16-bit game. I mean, you feel like you're having a lucid LSD trip. I mean, you just think you've got a sense of grip of reality, but you start to see pixelated animals appear out of nowhere and they steal your sense of direction, HenricK. I mean, I'm just amazed that as someone who is not really the biggest fan of 8-bit and 16-bit games, there is something about the game that is so frustrating that it pulls you in like a yo-yo.
Well, it's the whole thing of oh man, I can't get this puzzle. Let me come back to it. You come back to it, and you're like, man, I still can't get it. And then you get it, and you're like, oh, man, I was just stupid. But now I'm smart because I get it.
Right, and I think, usually I always like to judge a game by its story. Clearly, this is not where the developer was going with Animal Well. It's more about, discovering the mysteries and the secrets that unfold, and it really rewards the gamers in that sense, especially considering how there's no combat skills required in this game. You literally can only go like left, right, jump, grab onto something, and you just have to MacGyver the gameplay mechanics and navigate through this massive map, leaving you feeling more resourceful than a squirrel storing acorns for winter.
I mean, yeah, and that's where it's shining as a Metroidvania, because you could easily do what Metroid games and Castlevania games have already done in the past, and this does do a lot of what those two genres of games have done already, but at the same time, those two games, they focus on combat more than anything else as the avenue to move things forward. Whereas with this, it's like, oh, we're just going to put a really complicated puzzle that you won't get right away in your path, or a boss fight will be a puzzle itself, and you're going to keep dying to it until you figure it out.
I think that's such a great point, HenricK. And, even to just add on to the allure and the atmosphere, it's so captivating. I don't know how you felt, HenricK, but like every time I went to go launch this game on my PS5, I had to dim the lights in my gaming room. I really had to immerse myself in this world, because it really feels like you're being pulled into a black hole of an entertainment. But, except you're going to get crushed by gravity, of course. But, I do have to say, you were kind of going off about like the mysterious stuff and looking for the telephone and the fast travel. I guess the only thing I would gripe about this game is they desperately need an accessibility option for novices like me, for games like these kind of exploration, because I'm just afraid, like, gamers are going to try to quit out of this game within 20 minutes if they have an attention span, the size of a raisin. Like, you're going to be always consistently wanting to go to YouTube to be able to navigate through the next puzzle. And I think that's kind of a problem with the game. No one wants to go to YouTube. That's like using a GPS to try to find the needle in the haystack when the size of the game, the map, is like a continent. That was the only part that got me a little bit frustrated, because I like a good challenge where I don't have to deviate away from the game experience and have to go to YouTube, but I found myself doing that quite a bit playing Animal Well.
You know what, Chris? That's just a skill issue, because the whole point of this game is to not hold your hand and tell you where things are.
But I need it.
The frustration of not being able to figure it out, and then the satisfaction of figuring it out.
Yeah, but it's like,
that's just my opinion on that. I mean, I think that's just that kind of game.
No. I feel like you're trying to stir up a debate with me. This is starting to sound like a heated round of Monopoly, and I'm not liking this right now. No, I'm just playing. But no, really, like, I'm just afraid, like, with the newer generation, and I will even say millennials, like, the attention span, it's so small. It's like a grape at a wine tasting. Like, it's gone. It's like, so
I'd say maybe this game isn't necessarily for everyone. That's the downside to it being this genre of game and this formula. It's not necessarily for everyone. Yeah, you'd like to have a game be for everyone, but if you don't have the intentions span for this game, then it's just maybe not for you.
But do you feel like the hype that, the clearly we're expounding upon, just even speaking upon this game, and even, good amount of critics have also been feeling the way that I'm going to say, repeat, is that, do you feel, because of the sense that, emulators are becoming a little bit more prominent to all phones now, because iOS has been late to the party, do you think that's why this game's being kind of celebrated in the sense, or do you feel like it's really just the magic in and alone of itself?
Well, that might have something to do with it, considering there's more attention on this style of game, the 16-bit or 8-bit style of game. But when it comes down to it, I think that when you look at the indie genre, a lot of indie games do release in this style of game, Metroidvania, with sprite artwork rather than full-on 3D, because it's just more accessible to people to develop a game with that lower spec requirement for the graphics, where then they can just focus on making the gameplay good and the experience polished as much as they can.
Right.
And this is a great example of that, because there's been plenty of games that have done this already, but this is also it's the first game from Donkey's publishing studio,
Right.
that helps, of course, also with the hype, because everyone was like, "Oh, wait, well, what is he going to come out with as his first game?" Because
That's a good point.
if it's a trash game, then we got to clown him because he's clowning a bunch of games all the time.
Yeah.
But it was maybe not necessarily like a safe expectation for them to do an indie game like this, because they could have done other things, I'm sure, with the money behind them.
Right.
But doing this one, they did a real great job. I still think that they could have done a better character than just a blob. That's my
Well,
stance on
they
that.
don't want to get sued by Nintendo for ripping off Kirby, or is that a bit of a
Well,
stretch?
I mean, when you look at a lot of other Metroidvania games, they have an actual character design, not even just Metroid and Castlevania.
But maybe
like
they felt that
other
if
other games out there.
maybe they felt like if they, put too much of an artistic approach around the character, then you wouldn't take in the whole experience, which is the landscape and the dark allure and just being able to blow dynamite and just being able to discover even more different caves and hidden pathways and ladders and switches and cranks and oh my gosh. And I'm trying to bite my tongue because it's one of those kind of style of games where if we say too much, then we kind of spoil the allure of the game. So gamers, if you're interested in these kind of style of game, it's not going to be for everybody. Just throwing it out there. Might be for like the genre of gamers that like Talos Principle.
Yeah, there you go. Another puzzle
in a
game.
sense, or maybe, the likes of Portal. You guys are, anybody that's into the next evolution of puzzle gaming, hey, this game might be for you. So I'm calling it a repeat. What are you saying, HenricK?
Yeah, it's a repeat for me too, especially since I didn't go and get all the secrets. So there's more things for me to discover.
I have a feeling a lot of people didn't get the secrets the first time around. I know a lot of people were bitching online, saying like, oh, the game's pretty fast. Yeah, you probably didn't discover everything.
You didn't experience everything.
You didn't. Yeah. It's like playing Little Big Planet, and you're not picking up all the bubbles. You're just running and doing a speed run. Okay, there's a lot more to discover in the game. But hey, join along for the ride. But we got a lot more to jam pack inside this show because this is Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show after all. And just to remind you guys, because I see you guys tuning in live, join throughout the conversation. I know one guy's trolling us right now saying, hey, come on, Chris and HenricK, get to the Assassin's Creed. Your title it's fake news. Dog, it's called Warden
There's a structure
into the show.
to this.
There's a structure and there were segments to this thing. But I love the comment though. We're trust me.
Keep that
do
energy.
see
We
it.
like
Keep
to
that
see
same
that.
energy. All right, let's get the show on the roll, baby. What's good, listeners? Welcome to Patch Notes, where my co-host HenricK the Wreck and I discuss gaming news, industry talk, and so much more. Let's get it. In the 17 years since it launched, the Assassin's Creed series has taken fans all over the world, from ancient Greece to Victorian London. Fans got their first glimpse of Assassin's Creed Shadows, based in the late 15th century Japan, with the CGI cinematic trailer that introduced dual protagonist NAOE, a female ninja, and YASUKE, who's based on a real-life figure often referred to as, quote, the African samurai. Let's go ahead and take a look at the characters now.
Thought we learned that we should show gameplay in these trailers, Ubisoft.
Not Ubisoft, clearly not. They don't want to go in on another damage control, not on day one of the release of the trailer. But, this trailer clearly, or not clearly, was it evident after all? But, it generated lots of backlash from gamers and just non-gamers alike on YouTube. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we got a screenshot of, not just in the United States. We got, the Japan trailer. We also got IGN on here, GameSpot. You got PlayStation, Ubisoft's YouTube channel. I mean, it just across the board, Brazil. It's just amazing to see so many thumbs down when...
And rough.
Is it because of the CGI trailer? No, it's actually not. I mean, gamers are actually criticizing the choice of Yasuke as a main character over a Japanese protagonist. And clearly you can see from, the reviews, it's not being handled well. And opponents have accused those critics of being racist and have pointed out that Yasuke is based on a real life person. So gamers wasted no time responding to the announcement of Assassin's Creed Shadows with the following. So of course we dived in. We wanted to hear from gamers around the world. And the first comment that we have here is the idea of a black assassin in Japan completely negates the idea of hiding in public. Okay, I get it. That's pretty funny. I heard this guy was a massive
he's gonna stick
dude.
out. He's gonna really stick out.
That's like me, dude. Like when I recently went to Japan a couple years back, when you're blonde with blue eyes and you're 6'5", you stick out like your dog dick red. I get it. There's there's not too many black people in Japan, but he was, from manuscripts that I've seen, he was a slave taken in from a warlord and acted upon as a samurai. This guy was a badass mofo. But the thing is, Ubisoft has already created another video explaining that they wanted to highlight the two social classes, one being the shinobi, being with the female ninja, which also holds more of the stealthy attributes that we all know about Assassin's Creed. And for Yasuke, he is implementing more along the ropes of Valhalla. Like, that's really cool. I like that premise because I can't imagine a samurai being too stealthy. And don't you kind of feel like, HenricK, in a sense, that they didn't want to pull off another Ghost of Tsushima? Like, that game was already created, already made.
Yeah, I mean, if they tried copying Ghost of Tsushima, it's not going to go well because it wouldn't be as good as that. And everyone would only just compare it to Ghost of Tsushima, which that's just setting the game up for failure.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Good idea to not do a copy, at least.
Definitely cultural misappropriation and disrespect of the Japanese culture and history. The Office, shame on you, I guess. No, I'm just, wait, we were talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, gotcha. So we've been doing cultural misappropriation for a long time, I guess, on TVs, movies, television, podcasts, and you name it. The next comment that we got here is the Japanese are clear racists, and I applaud them. Okay, that was you're open racist here. Why is everyone so sensitive lately? Who cares? It's a game. I agree. Like, can we just judge it by the story and the gameplay before we ever start delving in over being mad about a character that you have no idea about? Can we just judge it by that? The only good Assassin's Creed games were the ones with Ezio. Yeah, I kind of feel you on that one, but that kind of deviates away from the conversation. And last, Yasuke could be a very good idea for a DLC character or expansion game, not as the main character. Why? That makes no sense. Okay, me personally, I feel that the first foray into Japan by Assassin's Creed should have been a Japanese character. A golden opportunity was missed by not hiring the gentleman that was just recently in Shogun. I'm not going to butcher his name because I feel like I'm about to do that right now, so I am refusing to say the actor's name. I know someone's going to clown me in the chat, but he's an amazing actor. Super, super cool. But like HenricK, Ubisoft's year has been rougher than a pirate's beard after a storm, with Skull and Bones, Still Lost at Sea, Ex-Deviant's launch day suffering server issues, and now Assassin's Creed Shadows sneaking up on them like a stealthy assassin with a grudge. I mean, what do you make of this fiasco? Did you feel like this is all going to be forgotten within a couple of weeks, or will this carry on all the way until day one of the launch?
Well, here's the thing. Everyone's making the argument Assassin's Creed needs to be historically accurate. Guys, have you played the Assassin's Creed game? The games are not historically accurate. There's science fiction in the first game.
You're telling me when I did the quest, when you're telling me that when I was doing the quests for William Shakespeare or George Washington, you're telling me that those things did not happen? He did not meet up with an assassin? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I think I've read that in the history books.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I feel like
it's just a little silly, like, come on, guys. Yeah, maybe, it's a little confusing one way or the other because you go to the Wikipedia page and it's constantly being edited about this guy because everyone wants to have their own say in whether he was actually a samurai or not. But
Yeah.
come on, like he's loosely based off of a character at the very end of the day, because they're not going to follow his story to the T like it was in the history. Because
Yeah.
if they did that, then they would be having a different game on their hands. They
But
wouldn't
I
be
just-
having an Assassin's Creed game.
But I just laughed that like a lot of people are like, oh, this is Western culture, bleeding in their DEI requirements. Does people realize like where Ubisoft's located? In Europe. So that's one thing. Also, people need to keep in mind that there have been Japanese developed games in the past, like Samurai Warriors 5 and Neo, which do feature the African samurai in game. So I just don't understand why this is now such a problem for Ubisoft. I mean, some fans are accusing the African samurai of not being real and calling him a retainer, but some historians have argued that a retainer is still a samurai. And so whether you want to have that debate or not, I think is fair. And Ubisoft has clearly came out in numerous videos hyping up the video game that they're not pretending that they know everything about him. And to give people an idea what a retainer was, there were usually like a samurai offering military services. He was, an African descent showing up on an island in Japan as a slave to another. They say that he had links to Portugal, was probably a slave to Portugal or a Portuguese man or woman, who knows, man mostly, and, basically was sold off to a warlord. And maybe he was just a badass mofo and slaying fools. And that's why his story has been written in very few minute manuscripts. I mean, that's why there is a story of a gentleman like this. And even on the website, HenricK, Ubisoft said that creators decided to include Yasuke in the game because they wanted a samurai character whose story was open-ended enough to allow for creativity, also adding that there are still plenty of questions and speculation surrounding the African samurai. So they're not pretending that they're, this is historically correct, as you joked, like right at the top. You gotta take every single video game for a grain of salt, just like how we read news on TikTok or Twitter or X or Google News or Meta, wherever you get your news of delivery.
Yeah, and I'm open to it being a good game. We haven't even seen any gameplay yet, so can't really judge whether it's going to be good or not in that respect.
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
Well,
I know there's going to be a lot of hate at launch day, though. That's going to definitely stick around. We'll just have to see if that gets slapped in the face of the haters if it's a good game, though.
I'm just like always amazed with like certain energy that can go so viral. And like, yeah, trust me, like, this is a lot of people angry at this game. A lot of people, as we clearly showed from, the dislikes that were showing up all over YouTube, trailers for Assassin's Creed Shadows. But you would really think, HenricK, that more gamers would be mad at Ubisoft for still trying to push this quadruple A game model and push for $130, 3-day early access, an extra mission, a few couple skins, and you get 2 expansions. So you're essentially only saving like $20 because you're paying an additional $50 on top of it. Most expansions cost $35 nowadays, $40. So like, I don't know. You would think that more rage would be sent that way. And it's unfortunate because even people were trying to go on Twitter. They were trying to clown this girl, Alyssa. She is the lead writer on Assassin's Creed Shadows. And they're trying to say, yo, this was written by a white liberal girl. She goes by pronouns. Yeah, I might not necessarily always understand this whole philosophy. But, dude, if she writes a badass story, she writes a badass story. Why can't we just start judging shit by the actual gameplay and story instead of a CGI trailer? Yeah. It just
the substance to it, which we haven't been shown yet. Come
and
on,
trust
Ubisoft.
me, and if they tell the story horrendous, and we will definitely clown it. But let us know, gamers, how you guys vibing with this game. I'm really curious. We got a lot of conversations where we even have our own host saying black. Oh no, someone literally wrote here, we might as well show it up. My favorite Assassin's Creed to date is Black Flag. I think I would definitely agree with you. The one,
and I agreed with that.
Father.
It is goated.
And that's why it's always very disappointing when we talk about Skull and Bones. But hey, we're not here to talk about that. We've already clowned them in the past. But hey, let's go ahead and switch conversations because this seems quite blockbuster move. Break it down, HenricK.
Well, Microsoft is about to flip the script on its video game sales strategy, planning to drop the next Call of Duty into its subscription service Xbox Game Pass like a surprise loot crate, rather than sticking to the old school method of selling it like a gourmet dish at a fancy restaurant.
Yeah, you kind of wonder why they wanted to do that. $70, but yeah, go on. Why the move?
Well, this move is rumored to be the biggest change in Microsoft's gaming division since they threw down a cool $75 billion to acquire Activision Blizzard.
So the first comment that we got here is, I think their blueprint already exists. Put it on Game Pass, but sell some deluxe bundle with DLC and early access like they did with other games. A way to have their cake and eat it too. Most players across all platforms will naturally not play on Game Pass, but even the ones who have Game Pass will oftentimes double dip for the extra content and early access. Wow, that was a mouthful. But is this a blueprint that already exists today?
I'll say I don't do that, so...
I don't think anybody's done this yet. I mean, you're not seeing PlayStation do that with God of War day one dropping on a PC. They're going to keep that shit exclusive, whether they got a mobile store or not. Let's go into the next comment. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the game is full of microtransactions and battle passes, right? Losing out on the $70-ish per game install compared to how much you can milk the deluxe edition plus battle passes plus microtransactions doesn't feel like such a bad trade-off. I guess this will be the ultimate experiment, considering how XDeviant just launched yesterday, and compared to 150 gigabytes and 30 gigabytes, I can download 4 extra games. And oh wait, XDeviant's free to play. Wow, maybe they do need to start to change the model of how they approach Call of Duty moving forward.
Well, if they can, get the game into more people's hands and then focus more on making money on the microtransactions, it'll probably even out. But that's just going to mean that they're going to push the microtransactions in your face a lot more than they already have, which is saying something considering that they do that a lot as is.
Yeah, and I think there's also, even bigger meaning to this. And I would say, for $9.99 or $16.99 for the Xbox Game Pass compared to $70, we clown Starfield, but it did see a mass influx of new subscribers sign up to the Xbox Game Pass just to play that game. And they are seeing the retention stay because of it, because it opened up a Pandora's box of beautiful, like you walked into the closet of Narnia and you're like, wow, there are so many games and I only have to pay $16.99 for it. I kind of like this. And so they stuck with it. I think it's kind of a smart move. But anyway, let's keep it rolling. That's also why I think Xbox Game Pass is a model that's going to encourage microtransactions even more. And Microsoft is going to care less about quality and more about monetization. Very fair point. I mean, I think, it's going to become like the Elite 8 or the Elite, like the top 10 games that are going to be turned into live services. And it's going to be really hard for the likes of Baldur's Gate 3 style of games to really prosper because not enough resources, money, funding will go towards gambling towards those games. What do you think, HenricK?
Well, that's what the big studios would like, is they'd like to have all their games be live service. That's why they're constantly pushing for that. Whether that's going to make them successful or not, we'll have to see, because there's been plenty of live service games that have come out already even this year that have completely flopped because they focused on the live service aspect way too much, and that can only carry you so far when it comes to game design, because at the end of the day, the game's not fun. It's not going to matter whether you have engagement through live service models to get people to keep playing the game, because the game's not fun.
Hey, well, if they open up the Xbox mobile store, in the next couple months and create this ecosystem of rewards, being able to link, all your achievements from your phone, from your console, all into one source, and they can kind of control you within, the Xbox Game Pass as well. I'm starting to think they're on to something that Nintendo and Sony definitely wish they had right now. Let's go to the next comment. Look at what they did with the splitting of Halo Infinity multiplayer and campaign. Wow. I never thought of this. This is a great point. $60 for campaign. The multiplayer is free to play, but also has tons of microtransactions of stuff you used to get for your $60 purchase. This is the possible future for Call of Duty. That's a good point. They might actually
Only thing is, people didn't like that. I was there for the whole ride because I was actually anticipating Halo Infinite, and it was such a disappointment the entire way from launch to now, even because every time the store got updated with cool cosmetics, but guess what? That cool cosmetic you want, $20, baby. Come on.
But I think what he's trying to get at is it's like if they try the Xbox Game Pass thing and they get subscribers, but the retention rate starts to go down, and they sucker you in for free to play still, then what else do they got left? They're gonna most likely do what Halo Infinity did, and they're gonna turn it into $60, maybe $40 like Helldivers 2, and go, you want to buy the campaign mode that everybody hates in the last like 3 installments? Man, let's keep it moving on. They need to get the size of the game down to less than 100 gigabytes. Yeah, I mean, I just made that joke already. It's so true.
Though.
The 150 gigabytes is ridiculous. Just to be, that was probably the worst thing they ever did, smashing Warzone into the mix with multiplayer. They really just need to keep Warzone its own thing.
And it gets installed even if you don't want to actually play it.
Right. It's so annoying.
Let me choose what I want to
Let
install.
me choose. It's such a good point. Subscription to read the article about buying a subscription to play a game that has a subscription to unlock content every season. What a time to be alive. Just wait until we need a subscription to comment about all the subscriptions. So,
and you know what? That's the future, unfortunately. With every industry, just subscription models.
Oh, dude,
they did it for Office. They did it for Adobe. They're doing it for games now because it makes them money, unfortunately.
They're doing it in the sports media world. We're hearing about Voodoo, which is like collaborating to create the ultimate streaming services. You know how we all used to say, cut the cable, it's going to be so exciting. Now I'm starting to regret it, HenricK. But going back to this topic, is this an Xbox power play or just Microsoft gaming the system? Do they know some kind of like secret gaming intel that's leveling up their strategy while we're still stuck on the tutorial?
Well, if they know anything, actually bringing up Microsoft, think about it. Microsoft's biggest subscription that they have is Office 365. And a lot of that is because of the name, it's got Word and PowerPoint and Excel and all that in there. And people think, oh, I need that on my computer. Even if they don't actually need it, they think they need it.
But
when you look at that, if anyone knows how profitable a subscription model could be, it's Microsoft. So of course they want to push a gaming subscription through Xbox because why would they not want to? That's just money waiting on the table, according to them.
But it's just kind of like crazy just to kind of take people back in time, because remember, Call of Duty was central to regulators' concerns over Microsoft's acquisition of Activision for $75 billion, which closed in October after 21 months of court battles. I mean, even in the prolonged review, there were partly concerns over about, Call of Duty franchise could give Microsoft an unfair advantage in cloud gaming. Then the acquisition goes through. Now they're throwing it up on the Xbox Game Pass. And I remember, the likes of Bobby Kotick. I know a lot of people don't like him, but he always felt, and he was very adamant about it. And he said, I think the worst thing that anybody can do is, one, put an exclusive game day one on a cloud gaming service. And to see, such a massive game like Call of Duty and the rumors that, multiple insiders have fed to the Wall Street Journal are indicating that they're going to be dropping the new Call of Duty Black Ops 6 along with the rest of the Call of Duty titles on the Xbox Game Pass. So it wouldn't just be the new game. It would be all of the IP with the franchise. That's pretty amazing.
And they're going to get away with that because they're going to say, well, you know what, guys? You don't have to subscribe. You can still buy the game on a PlayStation if you want, or on PC. That's your choice. But don't you think it is a good subscription?
But don't you think it is a good move to kind of sucker them in? Because, think of it like this. I mean, Call of Duty debuted in 2003, and it has since ranked from 2009 to 2023 as the #1 in overall franchise sales each year. That's crazy. And so to see that kind of magnitude and that massive fan base, I do think this was kind of a genius move from Microsoft. I'm going to say it was Microsoft, pretty much, gaming the system, on a level, not so much of an Xbox power play. I know Phil Spencer's getting a lot of flack for a lot of these moves, but I'm starting to believe he's got no say in a lot of these kind of things. I believe it's more the likes of Sarah Bond and, a lot of the the top big wigs at the helms of Microsoft that are really pushing for this new subscription based model, because I really do believe that they're panicking for the likes of Apple to get in the mix. Amazon's already kind of creeping there, and they want to acquire every single kind of studio that they can possibly get. And I think to even kind of add more speculation to this topic, HenricK, even before we jumped on air, there are speculation reports indicating, which I feel like is not real, but it's even worth just throwing it out there. Valve is potentially being looked at being acquired by Microsoft. And if that were to happen, that could be very detrimental.
I mean, that would
to the
be
whole cloud
a
gaming sense.
monumental moment, more so than them acquiring Activision Blizzard, because then they would have control of basically the entire PC market.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen based on what we know, because
some people were panicking about Activision Blizzard.
But I mean, it would be a monumental moment, definitely a moment to write in the history books. This is the moment that we let Microsoft be a monopoly.
You so nailed it. If they took Valve, that means they take Steam and they take over the PC gaming market. And I just don't see it happening, only because when we were jumping on air, we couldn't get a definitive number. We kept looking at different outlets. Earlier reports were saying that they would pick it up for $7 billion. Another report was saying, $16 billion, HenricK?
Which
so,
is still
come
nothing.
on. That's nothing.
It's freaking
Activision
Valve.
Blizzard was 75. So, why would anybody believe this to be a thing that could happen? But then again, who knows? If it does come, I will bite my tongue and go, damn, Chris Collins and HenricK the Wreck were so off course.
I'm just going to say it's not going to happen based on how the Steam Deck doesn't run Windows. Gabe Newell, the CEO, he came from Microsoft and made his company the way it is now because he didn't like Microsoft. He's gone on record multiple times saying he hates Microsoft, and he said, I'm never selling this company. So maybe if he passes away, maybe then something would happen. But as long as he's in control, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, fair enough, HenricK the Wreck. And I think just to kind of end this topic, Microsoft launched Game Pass in 2017, and earlier this year, it said the service had 34 million subscribers, up from 25 million in 2022. So what do you think the new number is going to be by the end of the year if Call of Duty joins Xbox Game Pass? But hey, you want to move on to
that? Maybe I'd say.
Oh, I don't know if it would go quite there yet, but maybe. I like the bold prediction. Clip that, fam, who's ever watching us live. Hey, but let's go and talk about the next topic, because Apple's decision to embrace video game emulators has retro gamers feeling more excited than a plumber finding a stash of golden coins in a warp pipe. Now everyone can relive the glory days of pixelated nostalgia, whether they're chasing Ghost in Pac-Man or saving the princesses in an 8-bit glory. And while Delta, one of the massive ones that blew up in the scene very early on, is busy being the Bella of the ball, smoothly emulating 6 Nintendo consoles for the iOS, RetroArch has now come into the mix and is over here like that eccentric cousin at a family reunion, always boasting about, their whopping 78 emulators. Delta has 6, 78. Damn, okay. But anyways, it's going to have you, just enough. Let's put it this way. Enough to make your head spin faster than, a Mario Kart Blue Shell. No one wants to see that ever happen when you're in the zone. AutoZone. No, we're not sponsored by you. Anyways. But if you're listening, anyways, and if that wasn't enough, RetroArch also becomes the first emulator to crash the Apple TV party on the tvOS App Store. And let's give you guys a sneak glimpse of this new reality.
Let me
In the
just take a moment to talk to our iOS users. Welcome to the family. Welcome to where Android and PC have been for years at this point.
Okay.
You're welcome here.
Okay, just let it all out. Do you need more time? I'll give you
No,
more,
it's all good.
All right, fine, man. Team Apple all the way. Anyways, Android loser over here. No, I'm just kidding. In the past, though, the only way you could install RetroArch, like HenricK was suggesting, is at least on an iOS device, was you had to jailbreak your iPhone or iPad. And clearly, gamers have been excited about emulators being more prominent in recent months. And just to kind of show that excitement, we got comments of people that have been just vibing with the mix. The first one says the Apple TV is going to have to do something about its small storage before it can upend something like the Raspberry Pi. Has a solution for anyone who wants to play a lot of ROM. So yeah, it's not quite there yet. But because
the only downside to the Raspberry Pi in comparison is it's very much a DIY solution. You don't have any support from a big company like Apple making it easy for you.
And I don't think Apple anytime soon, even though they might have seen this comment, and they're not going to make more storage. They want to stream games. That's where the cloud gaming comes in. So I don't think they're going to be supporting emulators any further. Next comment is, all of my ROMs are stored on the iCloud, which can be accessed by my phone or Apple TV. Works great for these apps since I can just have my ROMs in one central location that can be accessed by any device. That's true. Even when I've been testing it out on the phone, that's the easiest way to do it. So, if maybe Apple TV doesn't quite have it, but then again, someone got to correct me. If you could do that on an Apple TV, connect your iCloud, then that's, there's your solution right there, my friend. The next comment that we have here, this is funny. The whole reason I went to Android back in the day was I didn't have to sideload emulators. When did they allow them on the Play Store? A few weeks ago. So some people are still late to the party, but was that one of the main reasons you switched over to Android? I never really asked you that. Why are you Team Android? You're on the dark side.
I never had an Apple phone.
Oh, you've always been on the dark side.
I've always been on Android.
I know, probably people have been, they're like, really? You're saying HenricK's on the dark side? You sound like you're on the dark side. When has Apple ever been friendly for gaming? The next comment says, it's impossible to predict when Apple is going to ban emulators or add other stupid restrictions on their device. Just stick with open source. This way you can be sure your hardware software is working for you and not for its overlords in California. I don't know if that means anything.
It's just, Apple sees everything. The conspiracy theories have come out.
Hey, well, guess what? It's like, they're like, I don't want to be chipped like a dog. What do you call your Android? What do you call your iPhone?
Yeah, you already have the chip, and it's called your phone in your pocket.
Called your phone. Apple literally just approved emulators on the App Store for the first time ever. Do we have a reason to believe they would suddenly reverse course on that? As long as Nintendo exists as a company, there is a reason to believe they will reverse course. That's a very fair point. Remember we covered it back. Yuzu and Dolphin emulator, remember they all got in trouble, and they're like, "Wow, you're making this a little too easy." That was a little
bit of a different story based on the fact that they were using assets that were technically owned and copyrighted by Nintendo, so they had to, wipe the slate clean on them because, hey, that's mine. Don't take that.
But it definitely does get a little befuddled and muddy because, we'll break it down even further, like. Apple even says in their terms of services, like, you're not supposed to download like ROMs online. You're supposed to do it legally. And it's like, is anybody really doing that? But, the last comment we got here is, I love connecting my Xbox controller and just laying down. It's so awesome to be able to play these games again. I have a modded Vita and PSP, but the graphics quality is so much nicer. And, the reason why we wanted to bring this kind of conversation up is it's like, I was speaking in private to HenricK, and I was like, dude, like, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out what's worse for the industry and gamers, cloud gaming or emulators.
Well, here's my opinion on that. So when you look at cloud gaming, it's not going to have the option to play every single game. And maybe you want to play some, what is considered by people an obscure game by some respect. The only way to play that is probably going to stay either buying the original hardware, which at that point you're buying stuff used, and that's not profit going towards the original developers and companies in the first place. That's going to the scalping of that used product from the person.
Yeah.
Either
Well,
way-
think about it like this though. Like, you know, they're everybody's all celebrating Paper Mario, the Thousand Door, right? Why would I buy the remastered or the remake of the game when I can go and download the original version of the game that's hardly tweaked? Like,
But that's the thing. It's now got a version that you can go and play, and it's a lot easier to go access the remaster than have to go through the process of setting up the emulation, finding the ROM and not getting it from a sketchy enough website that'll give you a virus, and then setting that up in the emulator, and also mapping it to a controller, because your controller is probably not going to be mapped the correct way out of the box.
that's
So
true too.
it's the whole thing of like, yeah, you could say these services maybe condone piracy, but maybe the piracy is not an issue of them offering the service. It's the issue of you as the first party not offering that service that people are going to the pirates for. If
But-
you offered a better service, then the piracy wouldn't be an issue.
But it's like everybody, I get it. Like, you know, emulation software, it's not itself illegal, but the users aren't supposed to download game files called ROMs, you know? And while some iOS emulators have ads, like Delta isn't directly monetized, you know, I think that's when it's going to become a problem for gamers in the industry, because if we start supporting these emulators that are literally getting ad revenue for essentially, they won't claim that they're stealing the games, but anybody can go on, you know, websites. You just have to go on Google and type in emulation for games. It's not that hard to figure out. And you can easily steal Pokemon, Zelda, GameCube games. And like, what's stopping people from purchasing a Nintendo branded controller? Just like how that one gentleman was saying, I could play my Xbox and I could play a PS1 game. You know, I always kind of get befuddled, because I feel like, you know, yeah, people can get excited for ROM hacks. Like, I understand that that's kind of like a popular subgenre thing where, you know, people like to play modified versions of their favorite games like Pokemon, you know, and yes, some of them are instant classics, but it just feels like if emulators become such a popular route and more of these, you know, games stretching all the way till PS3, there's even some games that can be played with the PS4 on these emulators. Don't you just feel like the price of gaming is only going to rise dramatically if this becomes the new fad? Because we're getting reports out that the new generation, 1 out of 3 gamers prefer mobile.
At the same time, I'd say, how much is actually it affecting the profits of these companies? It would be an interesting statistic to see, because I'd wager to say it's probably not a whole lot of impact. And if it is, and once again, that's a failure to the actual first party services providing what people want.
Yeah, because
at that point, maybe they should fix their services. And if that is the wake-up call for them to fix their services to make them better, then that's great. That's a win for the consumer and for the developers.
I think the only thing that I would really get down with like emulators more than anything is it's like, if it kills off the fad of continuing to remaster and remake video games, then yeah, hell yeah. Like, I'm all aboard. Then I'll be like, you know what?
We don't need another Last of Us remake, guys.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know what? Emulators might be a good thing for industry and gamers, but I just feel like this could be such a drastic model. Like, if they don't figure this out real quickly, I feel like it could personally be very detrimental. Like I'm just still like amazed that we're still selling games for $70.
Here's an idea. Rather than just go after the people who were making this emulation escapades possible, how about, the likes of Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, how about they reach out to them, and rather than give them a notice to stop, hey, let's work together. Let's make this happen on an official aspect so that we can actually offer our old library of games properly to people. And we'll give you a share of the money.
Yeah, they could. You won't. I know it's so difficult because
it would not
like
happen.
They definitely wouldn't. That's so wishful thinking. But I could. I feel like it's now opened the doors and put a lot more pressure on Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft to be like, I know you guys have been such a hater for the longest time. You really want to keep people, together with your platform through, consoles, but the tides change. You're going to get stuck in the undertow if you don't move on and start creating your own kind of streaming service. And I think that was kind of the part of the reason too, like, even last year the Nintendo store was removing a lot of the games, because I still feel like Nintendo is onto this and they're, potentially feeling as though they might need to create their own store as well. And again, emulators started to show up on the iOS in concession to comply with the European Union's Digital Markets Act, which forced the tech giant to open its platform to alternative app marketplaces in Europe. And, it's definitely transcended across the pond. But hey, I feel like this is a good segue to jump into a nice little fun Reddit debate. So all y'all in the chat, join along, man. We definitely want to know how you guys are vibing with this next conversation. So HenricK the Reg, break it down.
With everyone yapping about multi-platform madness and the big wigs at Xbox hinting that exclusives are as outdated as dial-up internet, Reddit users debated the following online.
Yes,
Has
they
a console exclusive game ever tempted you to drop cash on a new gaming rig faster than a speedrunner breaks world records?
Yeah, I kind of felt like I did that recently with my PS5, Spider-Man 2. I bought a GameCube just to play Resident Evil 4, a Dreamcast for Code Veronica and Shenmue, and an Xbox for Mass Effect. All very multi-platform games now. Man, you're lucky to have like all those consoles. Do you still have them? I wish you do. Like, I'm just like the silly cat back then. I know my brother, if my older brother's listening, he's probably gonna be so mad that I would say this, but like selling off his GameCube just to be able to buy a Call of Duty game.
Oh,
I know. Take a moment of silence. Take a moment of silence for me, chat. That's in the chat. I know. I mean, you're gonna do like certain things where you want to be able to like jump ship. I know this doesn't really lend to the conversation of purchasing an exclusive, or purchasing a console to get that exclusive, but I guess I did the reverse Uno. Anyways, Smash Brothers. If a game exists, I'll own that console. For real. Got a Wii U just for Smash and never bought another game. Yeah, I remember, kind of growing up on my PS4, I felt that. There was definitely moments where I was so tempted to buy the Wii, but I didn't quite pull the plug. But it sounds like, HenricK, you felt that?
I bought a Switch mainly to play Ultimate when it came out. But I did play other things on it, obviously. I mean, if you're going to buy a console, you might as well buy other games for it.
Fair enough. Halo 2. Traded in both my GameCube and PS2 for an Xbox. Halo 2 headset and Xbox Live passes. That's how impactful the first mainstream online console game was. Everything else went out the window. Yeah.
Wow.
Halo.
Hey, golden years.
Golden years, baby. Next one. Pokemon is why I've owned damn near every generation of Nintendo handheld up to the Switch. I got the Switch for other exclusives. Spider-Man convinced me to get the PS4, but that was admittedly the console having a critical mass of quote-unquote good exclusives to be worth what that was going for at that time. To me, you know what? I felt that, man. Like I had all like, the Pokemon Blue and Red, Gold and Silver going into Emerald, and the list goes on and on. Crystal, yeah, you were definitely, felt like you were behind the tide if you were not in the moment. And yes, thank you, mommy, thank you, daddy, for wasting all your hard-earned money to get the next console devices, even though you never understood why. Next, PS4 for Bloodborne. Oh no, everybody's already knows my stance about that if you've been tuning into Rage Quit for a while. This game frustrates the hell out of me. I get that it's a fan favorite, but it would definitely not make me buy that console for the PlayStation 4 for this. But the guy, hey, look, he's getting a lot of support. 1.9K. All saying they adore the game, and the follow-up on it is same. My friend let me borrow his PS4 while he went on holidays. I spent the entire time playing Bloodborne and bought a PS4 when he took his back. And last, The Last of Us is the reason I bought a PS4. Crazy, The Last of Us is why I bought a PS3, which is still the only game I played on that console. Yeah, that kind of had me head scratching for a second, maybe people were late to the party. They saw The Last of Us remaster start to drop, and then, you know, the anticipation for The Last of Us Part 2 was very real at the time. Yeah, I could see that definitely being a thing. But, you know, HenricK, what video game tempted you to join the console wars, making you contemplate buying a whole new gaming box just to experience its exclusive goodness?
Well, as I was, you know, agreeing with that person on the Smash Brothers comment, I did buy a Switch mostly to play Smash Bros. Ultimate on it, but I did, you know, play other games on there too, Breath of the Wild, and even now I've played other games on there too, like
well, you know, Tears of the Kingdom. You remember we were talking about that? I was so amazed at the time how many people were rushing out the door to spend $70 plus an additional $300 just to play one game, and then nobody else plays anything. I could be wrong. Prove me wrong, Nintendo gamers.
There's stuff to play on the Switch.
I know there's stuff to play on it, but they weren't buying it.
Compared to like the PS5, where you buy the PS5 and then you look at the library and you're like, huh. I guess I'm going to play this PS4 game because the PS5 games, I've either played them or I don't want to play them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we got an amazing comment right here. Oh, wait, this is Zacho Man Gaming coming in. That's a great question. I would say Halo, but I was a PlayStation loyalist. Haha, even with having the PC now, had to get the 5. And we also have another comment here that says, from Gamer Gazelle, thanks for joining us. It's the game that makes me want to buy a certain game because the older consoles will not support the gaming graphics. Yeah, I definitely hear you on that one. And you know, I feel like with, you know, PC gaming, you know, definitely coming into the mix and streaming services, you know, it's going to make it harder to become this whole exclusive battle unless, like we were joking during the Emulators talk, Nintendo, like they always do, cracks down and cracks the whip and says enough is enough, and they take back all their video game IP and try to remove it off the internet as much as possible, and they will deliver it with another service. I know everybody love being served the new plate every time.
You didn't answer the question yourself. Was there a console that made you buy it?
Yeah, I mean, the most recent one for sure, you know, when I went to go buy my PS5 and I wanted to get the bundle, right? I was like, okay. And so the bundle really was Call of Duty or Spider-Man. I definitely went with the Spider-Man because the Spider-Man, the first one, was so freaking good. So that's the most recent experience. Man, I'm trying to think, you know, even back in the day, we were so tied to PlayStation for the Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. I'm even trying to think, I could be so wrong on this. Gamers can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember Driver was a very massive game on PlayStation back in the day. I don't think it was on the GameCube, and I don't think it was on the Xbox. It was a PlayStation exclusive. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But, you know, there's always such amazing games, and, you know, I was always Team PlayStation growing up, and, you know, parents weren't cool with having two consoles because I get it. They're like, why do you need two? You already have an amazing system. So you would go run to your friend's house to go play Halo if they were Team Xbox. So, yeah, you know, there's so many great games. And I even feel like, in a sense, the Assassin's Creed but Assassin's wasn't exclusive. Was it? Now it's getting me befuddled.
No, that I believe was on both PlayStation.
No, that was
Xbox.
Definitely both. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, we want to hear from you gamers because clearly Chris Collins doesn't have his facts straight, but he does know one thing. He bought Spider-Man 2 in the PS5 bundle. But let us know, is there a certain exclusive game that you guys are vibing with? We want to hear from you, the gamers. But, man, this has been such an amazing show. We can't thank you, the gamers, for always tuning and joining in live with us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And for anybody that hasn't followed, like, or subscribed to my YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? Hit the QR code so you never miss a live show.
And go ahead and hit that QR code as well, because that's for my channel. Well, you'll find all the content I put on there. So like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all that jazz. You know the drill. Yeah, you've been streaming way more often, and sometimes it's sporadic. So if you're not following HenricK the Wreck on his YouTube channel,
shit, you missing out.
Trying to
fam.
make it a bit more consistent.
Yeah,
But
well,
now I
you
think
know.
I have things all set up.
Right, we've been testing out some widgets here and there. But again, thank you guys enough, and we will see you next week, Wednesday, live at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Peace.
See ya.